All right, hi guys. So I think I know some of you, but I probably don't know everybody. So I usually teach at Chloe and the Junction. So if you've done my classes, you might be aware that mantra is a big part of my practice, and it comes into my classes. So we're going to do a little bit of that in the meditation part of the practice. So what I wanted to first ask, if anyone wants to share anything, a word, or something that, how's the week going, how the last 2 weeks of meditation have gone, or just generally how you guys are feeling. If anyone wants to share anything before we get started, feel free to unmute yourself and speak. Otherwise, if no one wants to say anything just yet, we'll just get you ready. So I want to do a 2 parts of meditation practice tonight. The first part, I'd like to get you or to take you on a nidra journey. So for those of you who don't know what nidra means, it means deep sleep, but it's a sleep where we're not actually sleeping. It's a conscious rest. So a yoga nidra is another way of meditation. And what I want you to feel, at least in that sort of very short nidra we're going to start with, is to find a way to completely disconnect from what's happened today, what's going to happen later tonight, tomorrow, so that you kind of already tune into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your rest and digest, where we can really just sort of unpack and just connect with the breath and really start to, instead of being all busy with all the noise and everything that's around, or relationships or work or dog or whatever it is going on, pandemic, we just kind of start to really reconnect to a space where it's just you and yourself on your mat or wherever you are. So if you want to lie down for this first part, you are more than welcome to. This is nice to be done lying down on your backs, but you can also sit leaning back, whatever feels comfortable. I'm going to teach it through as if you were actually lying down, because we're going to do a little bit of what's it called, a squeeze and release sort of nidra technique, to just get the body really nice and relaxed. And then when we get through this part, I'll get you to come around and sit up in a seat of your choice. Now you can stay lying down if that feels comfortable, but at the time you might want to actually bend the knee so your legs are bent and you kind of come back from that deep rest and you're a little bit more sort of aware and conscious. Or you can come around completely seated, cross-legged, leaning back on a wall. You can sit on a prop so your hips are higher than your knees. I find that personally that helps me to stay longer in a meditation seat. But whatever is comfortable for you to be able to sustain however long, 10-15 minutes of a seated meditation practice we're going to go through. And tonight's practice will be a practice that is going to use a very simple mantra. So mantra is not something to be scared of. It's not something that's religious. It's not something that we're bowing to in any ways, not the way I was taught and not the way I actually teach it and share it. So lots of different mantras. They're actually just sacred sounds that were activated by the sages and the gurus in India and in other parts of the world, if we look at different mantras of different lineages. So you can actually, tonight I've chosen one that is linked to the theme that we're going to explore, which is this idea of how do we sit with feeling lonely or alone, and there's a difference between loneliness and solitude, and how we can actually, if we are feeling that in that space of I feel pretty lonely and it becomes something that's not conducive to our well-being, how can we actually use the practice to reconnect to their inner space? And the practice says that all that we need is already within. So instead of trying to search for the things that we want or need, whether they are self-care or well-being or goals or anything at all that we think that it's coming from outward, we actually start to focus inward, and we realize that everything that we need to get through in this lifetime, in this body, if we look at it that way, is already there. And so these energies that we're looking at, like whatever it is that we want to bring forth, trust, surrender, acceptance, all love, compassion, all of these energies, strength, courage, they are already within ourselves. And so the mantras, depending on what we use to practice, are tapping into those, and they are sort of waking up those energies that are already within ourselves. In a nutshell, they also say that it's the highway to the heart space, because it's a practice of devotion to ourselves. So it kind of bypasses other practices of the yoga spectrum in terms of connecting straight to the heart, because of the nature of this practice. So today's practice mantra, I'll give it to you now so that we can kind of have a smooth transition, is 2 parts, very simple. So, hum. So that's the Sanskrit. So, like you would spell it S-O, and hum, H-U-M. That's kind of how you would spell it. So that's Sanskrit. But if Sanskrit doesn't sort of work with you, you can use English, and you could say I am. And that's what it means. Essentially, so hum gets translated as I am that I am, and nothing outside of me is missing. Everything is already within. So I wanted to share this practice with you because it's a very simple one that you can actually do at home when you feel like the fluctuations of the mind are taking over, and it gets really, really heady and anxious, and all of the demons start to creep up. The one way to sit with it and accept what's going on is to actually reconnect inward. And this mantra is very powerful to do that. If you were to do it internally, so on the inhale, hum on the exhale, I on the inhale, am on the exhale. But I have a harmonium, and I do a little bit of singing and a little bit of playing, so I will use that just to have a little bit of a live sound. So you can either do it internally and sort of follow the mantra structure, which is slightly different with the breath, because we're speaking it and chanting it, in this case kind of singing it. Or you can just follow me. You can sing it out loud, you can speak it out loud, you can sing it to yourself, or you can just listen to it. So there's no right way or wrong way to work with mantra, because the energetic vibration of the sound is already sort of being shared all throughout. And as we know, sound is healing. Sound vibration is actually a healing mechanism. So yeah, that's on the menu. So we're going to start, and I'm going to get you to lie down if you can, if that's available to you, if you're on your bed, on a couch, on the floor. And then you're going to gently close the eyes. And if eyes closed is not available to you, that's totally fine. You just kind of start to soften the gaze, sweet, soft gaze. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And just a gentle sigh, hum out of the mouth. Start to unpack your day, letting go of what's happened, but also letting go of what is about to happen in this practice, or beyond the practice, or tomorrow, or the rest of the week. And really taking this time to focus on the here and the now, the awareness of your breath. And there's no control of the breath in this practice. And just breathe itself. And you're going to pay attention into your toes. And you're going to gently squeeze the toes as hard as you possibly can. And then you're going to release. And then again, you pay attention to your ankles, your feet. You're going to squeeze, squeeze, squeeze as tight as you can, and gently release. Keep the breath nice and soft. Place awareness into your lower leg, where the calf muscles are. And give it a nice squishing, squeezing, and then gently relax. As you make your way up to your thighs, we're going to engage the whole leg. So this time from your toenails to the top of your thighs, you're going to squeeze the legs so much so that they're going to actually lift off the floor. And then very gently soften them back into the earth. And as we come up to our butt cheeks, our bottom, our hips, our belly, our core muscles, both from the front plane of the body, but also the back. We're going to engage, squeeze the butt cheeks, squeeze the abs, and then gently soften down. And then bring awareness into your right hand. And you're going to gently make a fist. And then once you've got the fist, you start squeezing as hard as you can into that right hand. And then release the fingers. And then gently, when you're ready, awareness into your right arm from the wrist to the shoulder. And then you're going to squeeze that right arm. Squeeze the bicep, squeeze the tricep, and then soften the right arm down. Pure awareness, attention to your left hand. Make a fist tight with your left fingers, squeeze in, and then soften. And again, left arm, squeeze, engage the muscles as tight as you can, all the way up to the top of your bicep and tricep, and then gently release that left arm, nice and soft. Gently melt the body into the earth as it gets heavier and heavier and heavier. The next squeezing happens in your shoulders, awareness into the tips of the shoulders and creep them up to your ears as high as they will go, and then a gentle roll, melting of the shoulder blades down your back, shoulders away from ears. The last part is your head, the back of your head, and I invite you to make the funniest, squishiest, or widest face with your face muscles. So you could squish, you could extend, you could make the silly face, all of these facial muscles, the jaw, the teeth, the nose, the eyelids, the back of the eyes, all of it, back of the skull, and then gently soften. And here we'll take a last conscious breath in through the nose. And a last conscious breath out as we take the next few moments in this deep conscious rest. Sugan Pushti Varanam Urvarukamivam Dandenam Mrityormo Shiyamamrita Kayambakam Yajamae Conscious breath out through the mouth. And this is where you get to choose if you're gonna stay lying down, just bending the knees. Start to bring some awareness to the body. Or you could roll around to your right side and very gently come around to sitting into your meditation seat of your choice. Take your time to staying in this very gentle, soft, yin-like energy. And when you find your position for your meditation tonight, if you are seated up, just a gentle back and forth of the spine so that you can feel the tailbone align with the base of your skull, that energetic highway, so that whatever needs to move from your root chakra all the way up can actually flow freely, feeling a little taller, a little lighter. And if you're still lying down, find the energy into your spine as well. Bend the knees, bring awareness into that part of the body. And then soften again. If you have noticed that maybe the jaw or the eyes or the eyebrows are frowning, start to soften the teeth, the back of the teeth especially. You might need to or want to just have a very slight opening of the lips just to soften the jaw. Back of the eyes, the eyelids soft. If you have a regular meditation practice and you gaze at the space between the third eye, feel free to invite that in. Otherwise, it's just a simple eyes closed or soft gaze if your eyes are open. And you choose your hands either palms down for grounding, palms up for uplifting, or on your body. We're going to use this So Hum or I Am mantra as our way to focus. The first stage of getting into a meditative state is a concentration state. So the mantra is the tool to get us focused so that we don't let the dialogue of the fluctuations of the mind take over our practice. Eventually, the mantra might dissipate and you might enter just for a glimpse of a second this meditative state where we become one with something that's greater than ourselves. And then the thoughts will come back and we'll reconnect to the mantra. And energetically, this mantra is to reconnect to that space that is equanimous, never changing, never fearing, never wanting, never clinging or grasping. I am that I am. Nothing outside of me is missing. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And again, a gentle breath out as we begin. Mantra going. A little softer, a little quieter, and gently. Keep the shoulders soft. The eyelids, back of the eyes. Let the repetition of the mantra sink deeper and deeper. Through the layers, through the noise. Wherever you are, you'll take 3 more rounds. So Take a deep breath in through the nose. Open the mouth and let go of your practice, side out. And trust your practice. Allow it to settle, to ripple through your physical body, your energetic body, possibly your emotional and mental body, and perhaps even your spiritual body. Just notice the feelings without any labeling, without any judgments. And when you're ready, just gently, you'll come back to your space. Notice the external sound. And the practice is to bring this sense of peace, of equanimity that we might find in our meditation practice into our external world, our life beyond the mat, where yoga really happens. In your own time, there's no rush. You'll open the eyes and come back to us. I'm going to try to make you, so I can see some of you. So before I dive into the Satsang sort of theme, does anyone want to share anything that's come up, any questions, any feedback? Some of you might have done mantra meditation before, some of you that might be a first time.
It's my first time doing it, and it's actually a really nice form of meditation, a bit different to what I'm used to. So thank you.
You're welcome. It is very different, and it's a practice that takes a lot of practicing. And for me, anyway, this is my main meditation practice, but I have a couple other techniques that I use. But this is definitely the one that I find that takes me right back into the space of getting all the noise sort of to dissipate, and then there's just a mantra, and then eventually the mantra dissipates itself, and then for maybe a second or half of a second I get to that space where there's just no more separation between me and whatever's around me, and there could be children crying next to me, or an earthquake happening. It kind of would not even sort of matter, and then the human brain starts again, and then you come back to the mantra. So yeah, it's a practice. This is also a beautiful entry point into the mantra practice, because sometimes it can be quite overwhelming or daunting to see so much Sanskrit words, and we don't know where we're chanting to or what we're saying, and really it's besides the point. As long as we understand the energetics behind whichever mantra we're choosing, depending on what we want to achieve in our meditation practice, then we can sort of start tailor our meditation practice and choose the mantra that's going to support what we're after. Yeah. Thanks for sharing. Anyone else who wants to chat?
I just want to say that was so beautiful. Thank you, babe.
Pleasure. The first mantra, just so that you know, the first mantra that I sang, which was obviously much more Sanskrit heavy, is a mantra that I found recently, and I always find that they come when I need them, one way or another. And this one actually is one of the most sacred mantra, tapping into the Shiva energy, which is in specifically this mantra, everything to do with releasing fear that we might have. And specifically, according to the yogic philosophy, all fears stem from one big fear. And that one big fear is the fear of death. So if we can actually start to have a nice relationship between death, then we can actually not be fearful of life, because the yogic philosophy believes that if we're going to be fearful of death, we are by definition fearful of life. And so it's hard to sort of bring the two back together to start of getting a bit more sort of comfortable with this idea of dissolution. And as human beings, we're not very good at surrendering to things. So funnily enough, well, it's not funny, but sort of interesting enough, this pandemic has kind of, like one of my teachers says, sent us back to our room to take a really good look at what we've done with our lives personally, but also collectively, and spend time with ourselves, not the self that we want to portray, or the self that has all these expectations, should do, shouldn't do, should be this, should be that, but our real self, this idea of who and what we truly are, which is the self with capital S. It's Atman in Sanskrit. And that self is what people call spirit, soul. Some people call it God. There's definitely a divine sort of understanding of that space where it's greater than our personality and our body in this lifetime. And if we believe into reincarnation, according to Hinduism and Buddhism, the soul never dies. The soul remains, but the body goes from one journey to the next, just so that the soul can keep on growing and evolving. And long story short, so that mantra specifically is also to not just work with any kind of fears that we might have, but also to help with feeling healthy, like healthy physically, healthy mentally, emotionally. So it's also just bringing that sort of intention of health, and sort of at the same time being okay with dissolution. So that was the first one that I sang. Yeah. Hopefully it sounded all right, because I don't have a special mic, so sometimes the sound might be distorted with the harmonium, but
No, it was pretty good. Like there were times where it would cut out a little bit, but for the most part, it came through really nicely. So well done. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I'll just touch base on the couple of themes that I wanted to share with you guys, and then we'll open it to questions and whatever you want to ask, or questions or reflections or anything. And whatever I'm speaking of from a yogic philosophy. So I'm by no means a doctor, a psychologist, a mental health worker. So I'm staying in my lane, and I'm just speaking from the philosophy that yoga sort of speaks about. So there's a couple of things that's come up within my students and my community, and being an essential worker as well. I work in childcare. I've been out and about pretty much every day. And there's sort of, there's a couple of things that's come up from what I've heard and sort of connected with, whether it's people are aware of it or not so aware of it. On one hand, we've got this idea or this feeling of feeling lonely and or alone. And that doesn't mean that, it's living on your own. You could be in a house full of people and still feel lonely. So that's the first thing that I want to sort of touch on. This feeling of feeling like we are lonely is very different from a feeling of solitude. So like I was saying, with something like a pandemic where we are literally locked in our homes, can be an opportunity to look at, okay, well, how do I feel within myself? Do I feel home within my own self with a capital S? Or do I feel like I constantly need to reach out to people? Or do I need my job to define me, or a partnership, or my children, or my dog, or my child that I get every day? So we get to sit with ourselves without all of these distractions. And then for some of us, for a lot of people anyway, that's come up a lot, that there's this sense of not be able to touch into that space, and therefore feeling quite lonely. So the yogic philosophy is very clear on this aspect where, like I said before we meditated with Soham, the soul is never ever lonely, because your higher self, your soul, your spirit is, well, housed in this body, but also is always connected. It's always there. So the practice, whether we do asana, pranayama, meditation, mantra, they're all designed to reconnect us back to the space inside. The Chinese medicine calls it the Shen, the heart chi. Some call it soul, some call it spirit, some call it God, universe, love. We don't have to believe in any sort of philosophies or religions or whatever to understand this concept that there's something greater than ourselves that is there, that we can tap into. And I said this from being single for the however many years, I can't even remember. So I always used to be like, oh, you know, people would tell me this, and my teachers would tell me that. I've been looking at them, oh, well, you're in a happy relationship, you've got children, you've got a dog. Like, it's quite easy to say that, you know, it's okay to be alone. But over the years and doing my practice, I've then realized, okay, no, like I can really feel, although I am alone, feel like I'm not lonely, because there's this part of myself that I can tap back into, this inner landscape that is always there. And so this is the perfect mantra to really connect to that space of ourselves that is always there, and that is not governed by fear, anxiety, wishing, fearing, anger, frustration, rage, whatever we might feel, especially in these times. That space within ourselves is just at peace. So that's one thing on one hand. And then the other thing, which is kind of connected in a way, is like, if we tap back into that space, we tap back into this connection to ourselves. And then we understand from the yogic philosophy that what is within me, so this higher self, this sense of calm, peace, equanimity, is also in the person that is across from me. And it is in the people that I love. It is in the people that I don't like. It is in the people, the things that trigger the hell out of me. And they are also in the people that I don't know. So this connection becomes a little easier to make when we are connected to ourselves, and we understand that, okay, well, that sort of divine part of myself is in everyone else as well. And we then start cultivating compassion and understanding and empathy. And instead of creating or nurturing or feeding a divide between, this is what I think, this is what they think, we don't think the same, we're going to be so self-righteous and judgmental, and the ego is going to come on and be like, no, I'm right, you're wrong. And then therefore we create a divide. The practice says, how can we create a bridge? How can we start one brick at a time to create a bridge between what we perceive as different or wrong? Because again, the yoga philosophy says, well, what is right? What is true? You know, like, who knows what truth is? No one really knows what truth is. Truth is this space of bliss, of connection. So if we understand this concept, then it's a little easier, and it takes a lot of practice to be able to, instead of responding, reacting at something that's being said, or something that you see, or something that's done to you, it's just taking a breath and going, okay, well, how can I find that bridge? How can I put one foot in front of the other to create the bridge and walk on that bridge? My teacher says, when you're caught up in those situations where there is a divide that just pops up, and especially when we're triggered, it's called aversion, is one of the kleshas, one of the layers that are in the way of getting to freedom. One is aversion, and then the things that we hate or don't like, or the things that trigger us or that anger us. And then we get curious about this, and we kind of go, oh, okay, well, there is something that's triggering me. We pause and we go, okay, well, what is it showing? What kind of mirror is it of why is it triggering me? So we kind of start looking, well, if it's in them, it's in me. If it's in me, it's in them. So how can I use that as a lesson to go, okay, well, this is a mirror of something that I might have not felt or known was there. So I'm going to look at it and get curious about it. And then on the second hand, we kind of go, okay, well, what would love do? And she uses love as the word, but you could say, what would the universe do? What would God do? What would my highest self do? What would spirit do? Is that connection again to what would this part or higher part of myself, which is not related to the ego self, it's beyond that, what would that part of myself do in this situation? And often we'll see that there will be a dissolution of anger or frustration, of wanting to be right or judging or retreating and being fearful. We all have different reacting patterns. So we all get curious about what is my pattern? What do I tend to do? Do I tend to, get on the horse and go to battle? Do I tend to retreat? Do I tend to sort of being passive aggressive? Each of us have a mechanism that we use when the ego gets triggered. And so the practice is, how do we reconnect? So yeah, they're big things. It's really hard to condense. But I thought it was quite interesting to bring it up because, but it's come up, especially on a 7 or 8 week of lockdown. Things are being stirred in quite big ways. So I guess now it's over to you guys. Do you have any questions or reflections, or does that make sense? Does it not making sense?
I had a question for you. I found that super interesting, and it was great to experiment it. So thank you for that. And my question is, if we want to learn more about mantra or find some mantras, etc., where do we go to?
Well, you come to me.
Right.
When I teach, is part of my teaching. Unfortunately, lockdown is what it is. So I currently, I actually use it in both my yin practice, because I teach yin a lot, and TCM is another part of my practice that I am obsessed with. So vinyasa and yin are both very important to me, and I incorporate and theme mantra in both. And so if you were ever to do my classes, you would definitely get some of that. At the moment, I don't know if there's anything on demand, but I'm going to record things. I just don't know when that's going to be uploaded. So watch out for that on the platform, on the on-demand platform. And otherwise, you are more than welcome to contact me privately. And the mantra practice itself, if you want to learn how to play, like you kind of need one of these babies over here, which is a harmonium. But you can also use the practice without the harmonium, and we can definitely work with mantra to have it more for personal practice rather than needing to sing and play. But some stuff are going to come on This Is Yoga. It's just it's cooking.
That's so good. Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Or did it not resonate with anyone at all? Like any feedback, any confusion? My teachers always says the wisdom is in the questions. When we think we know, we're off the path.
Hi.
Hi.
Hello. So yeah, I just want to say it definitely resonated a lot. And the final chant, the Soham, really took me into a very beautiful, quiet place. And so there's two questions. One of them was if I wanted to do the Soham practice on my own, like continue that, what might be your tips, recommendations
Yep.
for
So
doing that practice?
when I do it on my own, like without the harmonium at all, like if I go to my acupuncturist, I'm lying down on the table for an hour, I'll meditate. Or if I'm on the bus, I'll meditate. So I use the mantra practice everywhere all the time. If you're a driver, if you have a car stuck in traffic, best time to use mantra. So you would just close the eyes, and you don't even have to close the eyes if you're walking or something, but you just would do so on the inhale, hum on the exhale, and you just keep that happening. So hum, and that's it. It's really the beauty of it. It's really super simple. And you can, if you're at home and doing your meditation practice and you can speak it out loud, there's something quite powerful about actually speaking the mantra as well, because you kind of work with the vibration of the sound. But eventually they were designed to be internal so that the vibration would resonate internally. So start loud if you want, and then just start to, maybe like we did today, just get it softer and softer and softer so that it becomes an internal repetition. And the practice of mantra is repetition. So you could sit with it for 20-30 minutes, and that would be going deeper and deeper and deeper into the energetics of the mantra.
Great. And just a follow-up to that, often like I read that we should double the exhale to the inhale. Would you say it would be advisable to use kind of a ratio, like a small so and a longer hum, or is it more?
Yeah, well, that would depend. Like that is a different practice. So that would be a pranayama practice. So I don't tend to mix both two. So I would do a pranayama practice maybe prior meditation to really get sort of in the space, and then I would do my mantra meditation, because once you start using mantra, it's going to be really hard to control the length of the breath because you're using the mantra, and most of the time you will start using it out loud. So that would be, for me anyway, I mean, Geordie, correct me if I'm wrong, but to me, they're kind of two different practices where you'll do your pranayama. And yes, you can definitely do a ratio pranayama practice. It is one of them. There's hundreds, thousands of them. That would actually, which is kind of similar to the one I did at lunchtime, which I might repeat either tomorrow night or Thursday or Friday. It's to actually stimulate your yin parasympathetic. So if you're lengthening the exhale, you're going to go into yin, into rest digest. You could do the opposite if you need a meditation that needs to be like, picking up on energy. If you're lethargic, if you feel like, someone might be feeling a little bit depressed, you would want to raise the yang. So then you would do a different kind of pranayama practice. But yeah, if you want to go into rest and digest, start maybe with a little bit of that kind of practice, maybe 4 inhale, 8 exhale, or 2 and 4. You can do a ratio, but it's just a different practice than the mantra meditation practice.
Great. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I always do pranayama before a meditation just to kind of like get you in the zone, just like Morgane was saying. So like, yeah, there's tons of different breathwork stuff you can look up, but yeah, just I always do like what's it called? Like 4 count inhale and then 8 count exhale, like Morgane was saying, just to kind of like drop in. But yeah, thank you so much, Morgane. That was so beautiful. All your insights were so great. And it's ironic that you were talking about this just because I'm actually doing a lot of work with my coach at the moment, just remembering who you are and coming back to the big self. So it all resonated with me. So thank you.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have been caught up in the last 18 months with the question of, what do I want to do with my life? Like, is the job that I've been a slave to for the past 10 years what I want to keep doing? Or for some of us, it was a big like wake up call. For some of us, it's like a reinforcement of, yeah, I really do love what I'm doing. So it's a whole different talk, which we could spend hours on purpose and Dharma, but they're very connected. So we could do that sometime soon. But yeah, that's beautiful. But connecting back to who we are, which is why Shavasana is the most important part of any asana practice. And that's where we get the goal. That's where we get to reconnect to that space.
I don't know if my mic's working. Can anyone hear me?
Oh yeah, there we go.
You can hear me? Oh, look, I just wanted to say that it really resonated with me. So thank you. It's obviously a topic that's probably pretty big for a lot of us during lockdown, this idea of loneliness, and definitely has been for me.
Yeah, it's like there's this little lady here. Her name is Carly. And for those of you who know her, those of you might not know her. So she wears skulls around her neck and she slays the demon. And the demons meaning the ego-driven demons. And one of the demons that have really crashed the party in the last 18 months is loneliness, because we think we are okay until we realize that when everything's been stripped away from us, we're like, okay, well, what am I? Who am I? Like, you know, and then this need as well to constantly reach out to the things that are now taken away from us. And it's a great opportunity. There's a great book that I would read if I were you. It's called Untamed, if you haven't read it yet. And it talks about how can we sit in the feelings that are coming up, and whether that's loneliness or something else. The being human is to sit in those feelings and to see what comes up so that we can accept them, which is very different from agreeing. So you can disagree, but you still have to accept because they're there. And then eventually you can resolve, transcend, and then just kind of release, and then just get a little further down the path of feeling a little freer, a bit more at peace. But it's a lifetime practice, it's possibly multiple lifetimes. So we do want to practice with compassion and kindness towards ourselves.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I could be here for hours. I love this stuff. Well, we were supposed to start the soul session and then lockdown happened, but the soul session are going to be whenever we start them, when we can, are going to be this sort of monthly, actually mantra practices, and then singing and chanting together, but also discussing different aspects of the philosophy, which either can be prompted by me or whoever's leading it, or also by you guys, because if there's something that questions like, I want to know about how to deal with this from a yogic perspective, then we can chat about that and hopefully share some insight.
That's really exciting.
I know. We're about to start in August, and then life happened. But hopefully we can start some sort of online soul session when the mindful moments stop, because you guys are in week 3, which is amazing. And I really recommend, like you might have seen what I wrote in the Facebook group, but like asana, like pranayama, like mantra, is better to do it once every day for 5 minutes or even 2 minutes, then leave it once a week for 30 or 45 minutes, because the key is in the repetition, is in the commitment to do it every single day. And I think it's Tony Robbins who say, well, what kind of self-worth do we have if we can't even give ourselves 20 minutes a day to reconnect to ourselves, which is confronting, but pretty spot on, I find. So it's hard to sit and meditate, but there's definitely juice to be received when we commit to the practice. There's something in the chat. I don't know what it is. Is it a question? Oh no, it's a thank you. You're welcome. All right, any last question? Any requests? I take requests on behalf of This Is Yoga. I take requests personally. I always take requests in my classes. But
can I ask a little question?
Sure. Hi, Claudia.
Hi, thank you so much. It was beautiful.
My pleasure.
Can I just ask what the name of this Shiva mantra is that you did tonight?
Yes. Look, the name of it is really hard to pronounce, which is why I kind of don't really usually pronounce it. I will give it to you, and I will write it. So it's Maha.
Maha.
Great. So MAHA.
Mm-hmm.
Mrityo, ya, like Jaya, I think that would probably be the best way to pronounce it, but I'm going to write it down in the chant. It's not something that I was able to find on Spotify, well, this melody anyway. But I could send Geordie a link of the teacher who sang it, and like it was a really random file, like literally find. But I'm going to write it down here. Most of my, this actually is not, but most of my mantra practice comes from my mantra teacher, who's local. His name is Nadav, brother of Edo and Joe, for those of you who might have heard of Edo in the days. He's not in Sydney anymore, but so most of my mantra practice, and because he's a musician, comes from him. Just this one didn't, but we are going to work on it and just make it even better. I'm hoping eventually to start recording some mantras. So
yeah, beautiful.
I'm trying to see everyone here. So yeah.
Is that on the chat? Is that?
It should have come up on the chat.
Oh, yeah, I have it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And then
Thank
I might just put the link on the Facebook group. So it's like, what I did was using my phone and recording is at a voice memo, so then I can just listen to it. But if you do want any recommendations for any other kind of mantras, you're more than welcome to chat to me like privately on the Facebook group, and I can definitely send you things to listen to. There's heaps on Spotify that are just amazing. So
beautiful. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Yeah, Morgane, maybe you can post them on the Facebook group so people can listen to them.
Yeah, look, it's a matter of listening to things and seeing what you sort of resonate with musically. And I have actually, maybe I'll share, there's a Spotify that I've got a playlist that says chanting, where it's a bunch of different ones that I love, and I keep adding onto my Spotify playlist. So maybe I'll share that one, and then I'll just share a few names of the main ones that you can always go to and listen to. And if you want something for specific reasons, like if you're working with, I don't know, needing to work on surrendering or trust or removing obstacles or whatever it is, then I can point you towards which specific mantra to listen to, and then you can choose whichever singer you like better. They're all different.
Amazing. Well, thank you.
Welcome.
Any last remarks? Anyone? Questions, comments? Donna?
Just thank you. It was beautiful. Thanks.
My pleasure.